That's what baffles me about like the stolen valor stuff. Like it's so easy to catch somebody lying about that because of that. Is like if you haven't lived that and you don't know it, like it's. So now we're focusing more on GPS and traditional communication independent navigation and communication systems that aren't relying on that are either crypto, they're closed and it's one-to-one end-to-end kind of stuff, or using navigation systems that don't rely on satellites and GPS that can be jammed.
So you were saying when you were coming in back, I guess in like 98 at this point, you're 96, it wasn't that common for them to assign basically a rookie like the Intel label. But is it more common now?
I don't think so. No, I think it's still pretty. Well, there's two things. One, I would say it probably never happens at this point because now there are no intelligence specialists coming into BUDS. Everybody joins BUDS as a special operator, or what you're trying to do is become an SO. So back then, like you'd have ISs and boats and mates and air traffic controllers and yeomen and you name it. You'd have all these different rates. So like when you're in uniform, even though you have your SEAL Trident pin on, your insignia that says your SEAL rate could be any of those things. Like the IS is like a quill and a fucking magnifying glass crossed. Now it's basically the Trident without the eagle. It's like a flintlock, a Trident, and the anchor. It's just those three components is the insignia for SO or special operator. So now that there's not somebody with any intelligence training showing up, I can't imagine they would ever put a brand new guy as an intel department head. But
yeah, I was trying to remember our mutual friend Remy Adeleke. He was human intel, right? But maybe he didn't come in as that.
Right. So that program is post, like after you've been in the SEAL teams. It's kind of its own. It's not a rating in the Navy. It's a special project that exists in Naval Special Warfare. So it's totally different. But
you guys keep track. You remember all this stuff so perfectly. There's so many different layers to the military. I could do a million podcasts and still be like, wait, what was that thing again?
Well, the neat thing about that is that, for any of us, like it's second nature, it's like you don't even really have to remember things. It's just, you live it for long enough to where you just understand it. And that's what baffles me about like the stolen valor stuff. Like it's so fucking easy to catch somebody lying about that because of that. Is like if you haven't lived that and you don't know it, like it's I would say there's a 0% chance that you're not going to fuck it up somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's the wrong BUDS class or whatever. It's like, oh, who did you know? Like even if they say, oh, I was in BUD class so and so, who was your LPO? Who was your class proctor? Who fuck, I don't remember. Like I know you weren't a SEAL then because you don't forget that shit. So, and you see it all the time. I mean, there was a funny joke even back when I was going through. It's like at any given time, on average, there's like 2,000 to 2,300 active duty SEALs. And then in Vietnam, because this was again in the 90s, where the Vietnam frogmen were probably the most stolen valor oriented group.
Really?
A lot of people would say I was a SEAL in Vietnam in the 90s. And so one of the jokes was like there was, over the course of the entire Vietnam War, there were, 4,300 SEALs in Vietnam, and I've met all 97,000 of them, and because they're just fucking everywhere, it's just, but it exists today, especially with the internet. People know more, and so they're closer to pulling it off, but it's still, I would say, woefully lacking in terms of the finite details that makes it easy to distinguish whether or not somebody actually was a SEAL or not.
Yeah, it's always a shame when you see that, obviously, when people are trying to say things they didn't do. My one thing as a civilian from the outside that does bother me, though, sometimes is when I see the military eat their own and jump to conclusions on stuff. I mean,
I don't get it.
Yeah, I've seen it up close, like with people I've had in this studio, and then I see the facts, and I'm like, guys, don't why do we got to do this?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I would say even on a broader point, Chad Wright. I don't know if you know who he is.
Chad Wright.
Yeah, he'd be a great guy to have on here. He was a SEAL. He's been on my show. It's been a couple of years now, but he's a ultra marathoner and a really, really devout Christian and just a super, super interesting and good and cool guy. He's got he looks like Forrest Gump right before he turned around to stop running. He does. I mean, you can fucking pull him up. Like, that's exactly what he looks like. Always wearing running shorts. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? I have seen this guy.
yeah. Dude, you should 100%
Yes.
have him on the show. He's a fucking awesome dude.
Yes, I have seen this dude.
Actually, on the flight here, I watched a video that he put out just in the last week or so, kind of addressing that. And I think he summed it up spectacularly with basically saying, you know, like by doing that, by criticizing and questioning and accusing fellow service members, like you're part of this flawed system that the military has brainwashed you and made you become, which is thinking that the best part of your life was spent doing the thing in the military. And a big travesty is guys who get out and aren't willing to share their story for fear of retribution or accusations or what have you. And so you've got all this wisdom and all these really, really poignant, powerful life lessons that are not being shared because people don't want to get thrown under the fucking bus and be accused of lying or, you know, whatever. And the way that he spends like 10 minutes just in a one take rant, and it's just masterfully well done. But you know, maybe you start that out with, you know, him talking about that on here, but I agree completely. And I you know, have kind of made a very intentional point to never, you know, publicly take a position on a guy, you know, other than just being supportive, because to me, fucking life's hard enough, you know, and you know, one of the things that gets brought up quite often is, you know, guys, especially in the SEAL community, if they write books or they use the SEAL brand and kind of weave it into their brand, and is that they're pimping the trident and they're whoring it out, and they're making money off of the SEAL teams and what have you. And to me, you know, there's some nuance there that I would say is really important, which is, you know, at what point or where do you draw that line? Because I would say, you know, if you're saying, if you're filling out a job application for anywhere, or you're putting a resume together and you say that you were a Navy SEAL and that contributes to you being hired, which you absolutely fucking know that it's going to, no matter what you do, even has nothing to do with special operations or what have you, is that it you know, it displays a certain character and a caliber of man that has that on his resume. Is that what's the difference? You know, at that point, you're really just talking about levels of magnitude in terms of financial influence. You know, so whether you write a book and you have a fucking big trident, gold trident on it, and you get "I'm a Navy SEAL" tattooed on your lower back, I mean, whatever. Which I don't know who the fuck would do that. I hope there's at least one guy.
You gonna turn around and show us a tramp stamp with a Navy SEAL trident on it?
If you put something else in this mug, I might, and you give it long enough to set in, I just might show you some all kinds of shit. But yeah, but I, you know, I agree with his point entirely, and I just think, you know, A, life's hard enough. B, like, there's such a small group of dudes. C, you weren't fucking there. D, everybody has their own. I mean, you can get in a car accident, right? And the two people of what their experience was vastly fucking different. You know, even if there's traffic cams and dash cams, you know, so to be like, this guy's full of shit, he's a fucking liar, and he fucking, you know, like, I just, you know, to me, it's like my first question would be why? Like, A, who made you the fucking gatekeeper of the community? Nobody. Like, nobody voted on making you the guy that's supposed to fact check people. And two, like, what's your angle with it? Like, what do you gain by doing it? And you know, where's the motivation? You know, to me, one of my favorite sayings, because the dog industry is pretty similar that way, where there's a lot of eat your own shit talking, clicky, you know, fuck that guy, he doesn't know what he's doing. You know, there's a lot of professional jealousy or hatred or what have you. And it just drives me nuts. And one of my favorite adages in reference to both of those situations is, you know, blowing out somebody else's candle doesn't make yours shine any brighter. And to me, like, you could apply that to pretty much every aspect of life. It's like, you know, there's enough out there for everybody. Like, Jocko or Goggins or Sean or me, or I mean, anybody being successful, there's not a finite amount of success that can be had. And by, you know, trying to drag other dudes through the mud, one, you look like a 12-year-old fucking schoolgirl who's, you know, gossiping about your friends. And two, like, it's not helping you out at all, you know? So I just don't get it.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.